Today I'm looking at High on Life for PC, developed by Squanch Games and released in December of 2022. I had this game in my backlog since last year and decided to give it a try. It's a first-person shooter, which is something I love, and it's decent enough overall, but I do find myself not riveted to this story. When I play other shooters like Call of Duty or maybe a Halo game, I'm usually stuck in my seat, but this one not so much. The Earth has been invaded by aliens, and they're turning humans into drugs, and they're selling them to other aliens. You become a bounty hunter to kill the cartel that's responsible for all this. It's designed to be a goofy premise, and it's filled with characters to match. To me, this story is boring, but the gameplay is pretty good, so it's a decent play overall. It's important to mention this is not a game for kids. There's a ton of child-inappropriate dialogue, so that's not the desired audience. It's definitely adult-focused. The graphical style, it's cartoony, but it's rendered 3D model cartoony. The colors are vibrant, and the aliens look kinda squishy and pudgy. I think the style is fine, and it definitely matches the comedic tone they're shooting for, but it doesn't ever give you a serious vibe. The game was at least partially developed by Justin Roiland, one of the creators of the Rick and Morty cartoon. I believe Squanch Games is his studio. He offers voice acting here, and you're going to hear his voice frequently as you battle on, because your main weapon is actually the voice of Morty. This brings us to your weapons. With first-person shooters, the weapons matter, and here, we don't get the volume of choices that we usually see in other games. A Call of Duty game is going to have, 20 different weapons at least? There are going to be a ton of customizations available. With High on Life, we get a basic palette of guns, that's it. A pistol, a shotgun, a knife, an auto pistol, there's a big gun, and then some sort of a grenade launcher. And they do get some upgrade options along the way, but even in the upgrade realm, there really doesn't feel like there's a ton of customization options. In that regard, I think this one feels a little limited, but it doesn't break the game. What we do get is fun enough. The weapons are all living creatures, and they all have different personalities and voices, and they talk to you. In a way, this kinda looks like you're fighting with a Muppet on your hand. The weapons talk a lot, actually, as you play. If you get a good kill, or even if you're just sort of wandering around, they might start talking. Sometimes they're supportive, and other times they're insulting. The voices are a big part of the game, that's the thing. If you enjoy this type of banter, and it's not always witty, you're probably going to like this. Personally, I'm a fan of the Rick and Morty franchise, and this seems comparable to the random banter you'd find in an episode. There will also be times when it seems like there's probably no script being followed. If the voice actors went off script from time to time, I wouldn't be surprised. For me, a talking gun is sometimes fun, but it can also be a little monotonous after a while. Once you've been listening to it for hours, it can be a little annoying, depending on how your current level is going. I won't say the voices ever become a burden, but sometimes it's a little tedious. Every weapon pretty much has 2 modes of fire, and eventually you get a jetpack. And there's this interesting cable mechanic that I like too. You throw your knife like this cable gun basically, and you can latch onto certain points of the map and use it to move around. It's actually pretty great. I mean, there are a few different special movement abilities, and they're all pretty useful. There's a slide mechanic early on that I've used pretty heavy, to slide into cover, stuff like that. The cable gun's pretty great at opening up larger spaces, and then there's a jetpack eventually that lets you go even further. You can fight with all this movement ability too. This is all in your arsenal, and it can make for some pretty hectic battles. And it's a pretty interesting chaos we have working here, so not bad. You have a super suit of sorts, and you can upgrade it a little, but it doesn't feel like that's too much of a chore. There aren't a ton of stores to begin with, and sometimes they're even hard to identify, but usually when you're going to one of these stores, there's only 1 or 2 things that they tend to be able to sell. It's not like you have a huge smorgasbord of stuff to buy, and at that stage too, you probably have money enough to buy most everything. It seems kind of like rare that I run into a place and I don't have enough money to buy some stuff. And it's just really not a ton to buy anyway. In terms of level design, they're attractive, they're beautiful, but some of the levels do feel constricting, and we're definitely not talking an open world experience. Even on the levels that have more space than others, they always end up feeling condensed, because there's usually only one particular path that you have to eventually take to progress forward. It's not a huge problem, of course, but it just makes it feel limiting at times. They definitely went the extra mile in terms of detail with the scenery. I mean, if you walk around your house and look at all the different paintings and posters, there are tons of little things going on here. I mean, they don't do much more than add a little flavor to the game, but they definitely work. In your living room, the television is usually on, and it's going to play a movie. It plays Tammy and the T-Rex. This is this oddball movie from the late 80s, early 90s, and I think they play the whole movie. If you look at the screen, you can just sit and watch the entire thing. I never forced myself to get more than 15 minutes through, but I got pretty far. I mean, 15 or 20 minutes for this movie is a lot. You can just sit down and watch it, and I find that kind of wild. Definitely interesting. The gunfights, they're all fun, although you're only spitting blobs of goo at people. The gunfire feels a little squishy in this regard, and projectiles don't tend to travel at bullet speed. This is not Halo. It's not Destiny, it's not Call of Duty, and all the fights with all the odd-looking alien creatures that you're shooting, everything ultimately looks and feels just a little bit soft. It's certainly a unique enough game, and the talking weapons definitely have their moments. I did find myself liking this one less at the beginning. The more I played it, the more I tended to appreciate it. I think maybe that takes me halfway into the game before I got to that spot, till you get pretty much all the movement powers and almost the entire arsenal of guns. If you pick this one up, you probably want to make sure you give it some time, so you have the ability to see exactly all the stuff you can do. There's also some download content available for this one, but I just don't have it yet. I'm not sure if I will. I might. It revolves around your knife character, I believe, and I think it came out a few months back. Well, that's all I have today for High on Life for PC. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and hope to catch you on another video.